you got to think about like a lot of his base isn't just veterans or people in the military. It's a lot of, I'm not like trying to say anybody, but it's like it's a lot of like boomers,
Yeah.
and boomers
Oh,
love bullshit war
yeah.
stories. And, like this one guy held off 5,000, like
Yeah.
they're all about, right. And that's why they love Tim.
Yeah. I found that a lot of boomers and a lot of like, I don't want to say kids, but like young people. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Big Call of Duty guys.
yeah, 100%. Like the kind of I don't want to diminish them because a lot of them are just like good kids that don't really know, but a lot of like there's a cultural fetishization of the like cool guys.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and BR. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and BR is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Art and War podcast. Today we have Daryl from Projekt Atlas coming on to talk about the whole Tim Kennedy situation.
And I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
Sorry again that BR couldn't make it. He's out doing BR things in the woods somewhere. But he sends his regards. Anyways, guys, this has been a long time coming. We haven't done a lot of journalistic ones, and I'm not really the person to do that. That's more BR's job. So I'm going to try my best to keep a straight face. As you all know, the Art and War has never really been a big fan of bro-vets, stolen valor, or any of the kind of toxic culture that comes with like Tim Kennedy and the ilk. But I brought his name up a couple episodes ago, just kind of hey, this guy did a thing. And a few of you messaged me saying, hey, it's actually way, way, way worse than you even can fathom. As far as I was concerned at that point, he was just kind of a douchebag that was sponsored by 511 and made things up. I didn't really know the extent of how bad it was. And that's where Daryl at Projekt Atlas comes in. His page kind of collects a lot of the things that Tim has done and other things, naturally. That's not his sole focus. But I've brought him on to kind of educate us on probably one of the biggest, I don't want to say like 2A, but I want to say more bro-vet influencers in the market. Like what exactly he's done to really deserve everyone's collective hatred.
Yeah, so I really kind of want to start off here by giving a little bit of a shout out to some people that I think have been the heavy hitters in this front, and that's the Anti-Hero podcast, an individual by the name of, I'm sure, you and probably most people listening to this are familiar with them at this point. Nate from Ball at VFT. There's a gentleman by the name of David Hookstead, a regular apparel company, Sticky Green Beret, Stolen Valor, The Truth. I mean, I could go on. I just kind of want to put their names out there because they are heavy hitters in this. I urge everyone listening to this to please go check those people out.
Yes, the Anti-Hero podcast is one of the ones that I still haven't listened to the episode, and I plan on it. But that seems to break down a lot of the whole like Tim Kennedy misinformation and a lot of where, like cross-referencing his claims and claims in his book compared to what actually happened. I don't
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I only have like a child's view of what happened, but I'm hoping you can kind of educate us on that a little. I recognize it'll probably be verbatim, but still.
Yeah, I'll do my best. And Anti-Hero really, for lack of better terms, they really kind of opened the can of worms on this.
Yeah.
But this, kind of like what you're saying, this has been ongoing for a long time. And I didn't even know how deep it was until I started looking into it. So I knew about Tim Kennedy, right? Because he kind of came to fame somewhat early, like in the 2000s, before 2010-ish. And that's from his UFC career. And then he joined the military around 2006 time frame. He teamed up with, I'm not going to say this person's last name. And the reason why is because of legal issues. But I think people will probably be able to put two and two together. And he teamed up with an individual by the name of Nick Prosciutto.
Yes.
And they created Ranger Up. Tim is essentially a co-founder of Ranger Up, which is like an apparel company, but they also did some media and some things like that. And Nick, I'll just say not in a I don't say this in a way that I can officially prove or verify that he is an official media handler, but for all intents and purposes, Nick has worked essentially as Tim's media handler ever since. And obviously the co-author of Tim's book, Book of Lies, his hands are just in all of this. So let's hit at the origin, right? Tim, if you go back and you listen to Tim's interviews, he will constantly talk about how, we saw 9/11 happen and he joined the military right after 9/11. He was in the line at the recruitment office that day. Now, that may be true, but what's not true is that he joined the military right after 9/11.
Yeah. So that timeline doesn't add up. That math ain't mathin'.
That math is not mathing. Look, I'm not good at math. I barely, pass fucking math myself, but it doesn't, the equations are not equating. Yes. And Tim went to boot camp in early 2004. So he definitely didn't join right after, and that's per his D214.
Yes.
So he had this kind of slow build media career after that. And growing up, I was a little younger then, and I had to join the military when I first started seeing him. So he was, I used to look up to a lot of these guys, right? Tim Kennedy, Marcus Luttrell, Chris Kyle. This was, middle GWAT. You think these people are what they inevitably end up not being.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of, that's what happens when, Department of Defense is trying to work on recruiting and, to be honest, propaganda in a lot of ways, right? And they team up with Hollywood when it comes to that shit.
The Brovet Industrial Complex.
It's the Brovet Industrial Complex. Couldn't have worried about it myself. Is by far one of the largest industrial complexes in terms of, honestly, financial income.
Yes.
When we're talking about societal realm. It's insane. But Tim started getting kind of famous, and I kind of lost track of him. Right? I ended up joining the military, got out, didn't really pay much mind to it. I think my first year back on Instagram, I followed him and then unfollowed him a little later, and just thought it was kind of cringe. I just thought that it wasn't personal. I just thought the content was kind of cringe, so I just kind of bugged out, and I forgot about him. I forgot him for a long time until the 2021 HKI evacuation. And
man, yeah, I remember that.
And that's, for me, that's when Tim came back in the spotlight.
Yeah, and sponsored by 511 Tactical.
Right, that's right. Yeah, I gotta go out there for the pictures and the merch promo and everything else.
Yeah.
And if you look back at the pictures he took, he's definitely promoting merch in some of those photos.
Oh, 100%.
It's grotesque, but that we'll get into his little HKI LARP here in a minute. So that's when he kind of re-entered, came back on my radar. And at first, I thought when he's just being a douchebag, it's kind of crazy. Why is he over there? I don't know, but I won't say the name, but the organization he was affiliated with, Save Our Friends, I saw them and I said, maybe they're doing cool stuff. The evacuation is kind of fucked up. It's, the boss dead on arrival in some ways. So maybe it seems like they're doing cool things.
Yeah.
But I still thought he was kind of a douchebag. The way he was posting, what he was posting about while all this was going down, it seemed very self-centered, self-centric. So again, just after that happened, I put it out of my mind. But I knew some guys that went there. I knew some guys that participated in that. I just happened to, want to shoot the shit with them. I'd be like, hey, did you ever run by 10K while he's out there? And they'd be like, some of them would be like, yeah, he came to our fucking gate trying to do whatever, he wanted to do. I said, wow, really? And they, get into stories. Well, he's at this one gate in particular, Blackgate. A friend of mine, I'll say his name's CJ. he was with the 82nd Airborne.
Yeah.
And they were also holding down on another gate. And his platoon commander had to tell, Tim to fuck off because he's just trying to come on. And Tim's using, this is a story you'll hear from everyone that was there, regardless of Marine, sailor, soldier, airman, fill in the blank. They will all tell you that Tim Kennedy tried to use his social status to come and go as he pleases in and out of the gates, bypassing everything. And I kind of he really started kind of coming back on my radar again. He just keeps kind of coming in and out. And this is when he started coming back in. Shortly after that, the Russian invasion of Ukraine kicks off in February 2022. Next thing you know, he's going over there. And I'm asking myself, what is he doing there? I just don't understand. He's in the military, but he's partaking in these strange operations and, combat zones. What is going on? What is he doing? And again, it was really just kind of a shit talk phase. Ended up forgetting about it. Didn't think much of it. And then fast forward, kind of tying this in, November of last year, November 25th, to be specific, the Anti-Hero podcast releases their episode called Book of Lies. And it is a very well done, in-depth podcast where they go through Tim Kennedy's book. And they start dissecting everything in there. And the best part is they will end up, if they pick something out, they will end up referencing his own words in something else. So Tim has this amazing ability to contradict himself. And everyone knows, when you lie, your lies you have to keep the same story. And the longer it goes on, the harder it gets, right? And part of this is just your own memory failing or getting worse over time. Yeah. And so his lies just they don't add up, right? And so they kind of opened up the can of worms with that. And they talked about how, in his book, Tim Kennedy claims to have been wounded in action, right? Yeah. He claims that he was peppered so badly by shrapnel that the medic that was with him at the time said his body looked like it had been peppered by birdshot. Another claim was that, he was, sorry, let's pause on that and go back. So
yeah, no, of course.
That claim right there, right, about being wounded in action. I started after the Book of Lies came out, the Anti-Hero podcast came out. I started kind of diving into some other things. So I would go back and search old Tim Kennedy articles. And another individual that I mentioned earlier, Stolen Valor of the Truth, was also doing the same thing. And that person would send me all kinds of shit. So I found on letterneck.com, I found a 2009 article with a gentleman named Sam Kaplan, who was with 5 ounces of pain at the time. And he refers to, in quotation, to Nick Prosciutto as, quote, Tim's manager. So that kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of his media involvement. And he's talking to Tim. This is an article with Tim, and he says, Nick, Tim's manager, Nick says that you, quote, were injured in the field, and then asked him about it. And Tim responds with, quote, yes, providing some aid to a village, and we got IED'd as part of an ambush. I got a little bit of shrapnel wound, some to my face and some to my arm. So story number 1 of his book, he gets the side of his body covered in shrapnel, right? Yeah. 2009 article, he's saying that I got a little bit of shrapnel wound, some went to my face and some to my arm. Yeah, it's kind of a different story, right? Yeah. And then August 2011, he's on an episode of Spike TV, Deadliest Warrior, and anybody can find this online.
Man, I watched that back in the day, 100%. Yeah, I watched that, and as a teenager, I thought that was the coolest shit in the world. I had no idea that was him. Both. Yeah,
you and
I had no idea that was him until super recently.
Yeah, exactly. See, that was something I watched when I was younger too, and when I rewatched that clip, my brain, like everything just started firing off in my head. Like I remember this episode. Like I remember this prank. And so on that episode, you guys go watch, he says, overrun, literally shot, gun saved my life, and magazine capacity was a big part. So 3 different times he's been wounded in action. IED to the face and the arm, some other explosion to the whole side of his body, and then getting shot. All right. The problem with that is he was never awarded a Purple Heart at any point, at any time. Now, he, in his rebuttal, because about a week after their podcast dropped, on December 3rd, Tim released his rebuttal to the podcast. Now, if you have gone to any type of therapy, you will learn. Well, I don't want to say you'll learn, but you will become kind of more aware of how people talk and how they say things, and more specifically, like the verbiage that people use.
Yes.
And Tim Kennedy, not to get super like therapeutic here, but Tim Kennedy is a sociopathic narcissist. So he uses language that fits that. Everything is very, I wish I could word more eloquently, but everything is very snaky. He is able to kind of wriggle his way around certain things. And so he chooses not to address a lot of the inconsistencies that they brought up. He only sticks to a few. And the Purple Heart is one of those things. His rebuttal to that was that because he was working as a liaison with the Czech Special Forces, he wasn't under a direct American chain of command. Therefore, he didn't have anyone that put him up for the award. That's just not, it's not realistic. And also he's interacting with these other Americans during this high. So even if that were the case, other Americans would still see that he was wounded, and that would make his way up a chain of command somewhere. It's not reasonable to say you were wounded in action, and because you didn't have a specific chain of command, it didn't go up. That is there's been like a small handful of cases throughout all the global warfare of that happening. And in this case, with him being such a, I'm not going to word this, high profile individual, you bet your sorry ass, like he's going to get that award. And on top of that, this is how you can kind of know when Tim lies and when it's bullshit, because of how much he's a narcissist. If Tim really got a Purple Heart, he would have 1,000 pictures of it. He would have pictures of him bleeding, his blood-soaked uniform, and like that would be his profile picture for 10 fucking years straight. But it's not, because it never happened.
Hey guys, we're taking a quick break to talk about staying sharp and protected in any temperature extreme with our newest supporter of the show, Core Performance, the experts in thermoregulation gear. Core Performance provide cooling, heating, and hydration solutions that seamlessly integrate with your kit, whether you're rocking a plate carrier, chest rig, heavy pack, or just hitting the trail for a hike or run. Their ice plate and ice flask are game changers. Wearable water bottles you fill with drinkable water, freeze overnight for cooling, or fill with warm water for heating. These are worn against your back or on your flanks and keep you cool during intense range sessions, competition shooting, or field work, protecting against heat exhaustion. Or, alternatively, keeping you warm when static in the freezing cold, guarding against hypothermia. As it melts, you stay refreshed with ice-cold drinking water, or provides you with warm water in the extreme cold. Even without the thermal benefits, Ice Plate and Ice Flask are rugged hydration solutions built for those, like myself, who have popped soft bladders. They take the water you're already carrying and give it dual purpose to help you overcome extreme temperatures and stay effective when others are focused on survival. I've been using Core Performance since 2022 to conquer Arizona's heat and train year-round in the Southwest. I've been a fanboy for a long time. Nathan and Phil also rock this stuff. I think Core's equipment is seriously differential from most offerings in the gear world, and now they're supporting the show. Aside from Ice Plate and Ice Flask, they also make an excellent ultralight hydrophobic plate carrier, which I run, the Ice Plate Exo Gen 3, and have ventilated padding called Ice Vents, which don't trap heat and sweat like legacy foam padding. Check out coreperformance.com and use code ArtandWar10 for 10% off. Every purchase with our code supports the show. Links are in the description and are link free. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
And
I
so,
got a question, if you don't mind.
yeah, sorry, I know I'm like
interrupting.
just I apologize for this.
This is actually fantastic. This kind of goes to what I was saying before. Like, being from Canada, we don't exactly have the same system as you. So I'm going to ask some questions that may be really obvious if you spent like a week in the American military, but I haven't. So when you have like the answer is probably going to be what I think it is, but I would be remiss not to ask. If you have like a DD-214, would anything you were awarded like a Purple Heart show up in it?
Yes. So when I had received my DD-214, it's essentially your outgoing exit letter, right? It's your discharge letter. It's, hey, you're no longer in the United States military. Here's your awards, and they list every single award that you have. So there's literally no way for it to not be on there.
Yeah.
And this is what plays a role in kind of like what comes next. Is part of his rebuttal was that, well, and he didn't explain that he's still in the transition because he was originally active duty, went National Guard. So his rebuttal in the video, he says, well, it's easy for you guys to claim this because that is an old DD-214. So he's implying that award would show on a later DD-214, which it doesn't. So he uses small things like that where your average person is going to hear, oh, it was on they're using old documents. Like, why does this matter? Yeah. Like when it absolutely does. It doesn't matter. Like, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be on there one way or the other because the old DD-214 is from his time in active duty. So the only way it would be on there and it would be on a future one is if for some reason the award wasn't put up and approved in that time, in which case it would show on his next one when he leaves the National Guard. But he hasn't been awarded the Purple Heart in the National Guard, so it's never gone. Yeah. And again, like we already said, he's the type of person where if he was awarded it, that's going to be fucking everywhere. Like, it's going to be everywhere. You can go back through, like, I urge everyone, honestly, to go back and just listen to how he talks, because you got to think about, like, a lot of his base isn't just veterans or people in the military. It's a lot of, I'm not like trying to shit on anybody, but it's like it's a lot of like boomers, and boomers love bullshit war stories. And, like this one guy held off 5,000, like they're all about, right? And that's why they love 10.
Yeah. I found that a lot of boomers and a lot of like, I don't want to say kids, but like young people. Like, big Call of Duty, yes. Yeah, 100%. Like the kind of, I don't want to diminish them because a lot of them are just like good kids that don't really know, but a lot of like, there's a cultural fetishization of the like cool guys. Yes. Like, people who've been there and done that. And it's kind of a chicken and the egg situation. Sorry, continue.
No, you're absolutely right. And honestly, I think that's an important thing to hit on right here. That, to me, that's part of the Brovet industrial complex, is this, like I think you referred to it perfectly, the fetishization of this life of the operator. This was kind of a slow moving thing in the like mid 2000s. And I think this is just kind of like my opinion. I really think it kind of started turning into a speed run around like 2011 when SEAL Team 6 started becoming famous. The Bin Laden raid. I can't remember what year it was, but the when the Somali pirates took the Maersk, and so SEAL Team 6 responded to that and killed the Somali pirates. Not dogging on these people, but the podcast Soft Rap with Jack Murphy, when they came around, the soft kind of culture or worship of that really started building. And it only got worse after that. And veterans, this is a good thing overall, but veterans, especially people in the, male influencer world started using their stories and their service to write books and create companies and do media, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm not that like dog on that by any stretch.
Yeah, of course. You can do it. You can do it well, or you can be a dick.
That's right. Yeah,
it's
that's
not
right.
necessarily good or bad on its own.
Absolutely. The only bad thing is this was just my personal opinion, but I feel like a lot of the more well-known ones are kind of the dicks.
Yes.
And I don't know what that is or why, but that's just what I've personally noticed.
Yeah, there's another chicken and egg situation. Does like becoming really well known make you an asshole, or were you already an asshole and helped you become really well known?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, tale as old as time.
Absolutely. So let's speed forward a little bit. So on January 6th of this year, the Anti-Hero podcast drops their second series on 10K called The Book of Lies 2. And on this one, they have several of Tim's teammates, individuals that were there during this operation, during this time while 10K was deployed to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And they corroborate, what the Anti-Hero podcast is breaking down. They bring their own personal perspectives. They were there. They were on the ground. These guys don't have a dog in the fight. Other people, emailed in, texted, like the Anti-Hero crew, Brady Tyler, they got in touch with other people who just didn't want to come on for the sake of, anonymity and they're still in, etc. So many people corroborate what they were saying. And so that led to that day, actually, after the release, Tim Kennedy made a second post on Instagram. And part of that post, he says, I do not, nor have I ever claimed to have a Bronze Star of the V device. Now, let's fast forward a month later. Here we are again. Months later, a clip comes out of Tim on a podcast years ago, and the interviewer says, I hear through a source that you have a Bronze Star of the V. Is that correct? And you hear Tim go, yup. And the interviewer goes, do you mind getting in how you got that? And Tim gives this like horny ass response of, there was a bad guy and Sean. And that's it. It's just like the weirdest, like that's not how you get a Bronze Star with a V. So that proved what he said to be wrong. When he made the post months ago, I do not, nor have I ever claimed to have a Bronze Star with a V, but completely proved it wrong.
Yeah.
So July 8th, he then makes a third post. It's this apology post. It's a picture of it. You have to like read it in the picture. And he starts off by saying, I want to take full and unequivocal responsibility for a serious mistake I made. Part of that is like unintentionally, and here we go back to like kind of the therapeutic snake talk, which is unintentionally misspoke about certain aspects of my career.
Yeah, it's motherfucker, you got caught.
Right. So if any one of you have dated a narcissist, you know that when you catch them doing something wrong, they word it in a way where they kind of take responsibility, but overall they don't. And that's why you have things like, I unintentionally misspoke. No, it's I lied about something. That's all it is. There's no unintentionally anything. I ran that apology letter through multiple AI detecting apps. Now, I'll be the first to say, I don't know the effectiveness of these apps, right? You can find them on Google. A lot of them are for free. So I don't want to sit here and say this, the word of God, because I can't confirm their effectiveness. But I Googled multiple AI detectors, ran it through three separate ones, and all of them came out with 97 to 98% likely created by AI. So, and any one of you, please go do this and fucking check me. Like I am more than happy to be checked myself, but I ran it through three different ones. So let's say these applications are telling the truth. That means that after the first release, Tim put out the rebuttal saying, you guys are full of shit. Everything these people are saying is a lie. They don't know me, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Yeah. So then they bring people on to a podcast and they start bringing up these claims here and there that he said, I am a Bronze Star with a V, Bronze Star for Valor. So Tim makes a second post, doubling down essentially. I do not ever claim to have a Bronze Star. That gets proven wrong by hearing his own voice say, that's exactly what I have. And then, so he gaslights everyone, then doubles down. And then when he does put out an apology, he doesn't actually apologize. And the fucking thing's created by AI. So, like, my thing is, like, people will still back this dude up.
Yeah.
And my thing is, not only did this person lie to you initially to make money off of you, but then they lied about getting caught, and then they doubled down. And when they apologized, they didn't really apologize. And they care so little about you that they just had AI write an apology.
Yeah.
Like
that shows like using AI to do something so kind of like intimate. Not to be gay, but whatever. Like if you're a public figure, it's not necessarily that you owe the people that are responsible for your success, but you kind of do. Like at least being honest to them. Like getting an apology or like a heartfelt letter written by fucking ChatGPT is probably one of the most disrespectful things you can do. That is the most like I don't give a fuck about you thing you can do. Just my take.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. It's extremely disrespectful and to put people through all this and lie to them and gaslight them and still be like, you don't even deserve me getting you a genuine apology that's written by me.
Yeah.
I don't know how you defend him after that. That's on whatever personal convictions, that's whatever. Yeah. But what this has led to, where we are now, on July 28th, the Anti-Hero podcast released their third episode on the book. And again, they're just going through his book. And you can listen to claims he made in his book, and then go back and listen to podcasts he's been on or earlier interviews in his life, and the stories never match. They just never match. And some of you guys can go to like any of these profiles I mentioned before, and these people have archives essentially of clips of Tim Kennedy on this episode and that episode. He's saying this, that, and the other thing. One example that sticks out to me is Nick did a short little, like, I guess, documentary on the origin of sheepdog response. I think it's sheepdog response, which is, Tim's little calf bro fucking horse or company. And in it, there's a clip of him saying, they're going to throw acid on, if we don't do this, like, they're going to go throw acid on, more little girls. Yeah. And he says, I've been there. I killed that motherfucker. And then you can find him on Joe Rogan. And he says, there were multiple guys who threw acid on multiple people, and we hunted them down and killed them. And so every story he has is completely different than the next. And again, this is what I was saying with people who lie. Like you eventually can't keep yourself in check. The lie just changes, almost naturally, right? Because it's hard telling the truth. You can just go out there and what is the sky like? Well, Nate, the sky's blue. But if I sit here and tell you red, and I keep telling you red, eventually I'm going to be like, it's pink or it's orange. Yeah, that's a very like crude comparison, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And where we are now is these individuals that I previously mentioned, along with like the entire fucking mill meme community, especially like the soft side of the meme community, is just on this hunt in this digging fest to find every little thing about Tim. Because
and good.
Right. And you can find, I mean, I'm finding old articles online, old podcasts, multiple times he's claimed to have a Bronze Star with a V, either directly or indirectly. So the podcast hoster will introduce him, and in the introduction, they'll say, hey, you know, this is MK Special Forces Ranger Green Beret, and he's been awarded the Bronze Star with me, or Bronze Star for valor. And he never corrects it. So when you have over a dozen articles and podcast episodes where you either say you have it yourself, or someone introduces you as that and you don't correct it, like, I have an obligation to correct it. You as the person's being interviewed, right? If we started this and I said, yeah, I was a Navy SEAL with SEAL Team 3, it's not true. And I have I have the responsibility to tell you, hey man, like, I'm a Navy SEAL. Otherwise, you're implying that you are one. You're letting people.
Yeah, it's lying by omission.
Exactly. Yes, exactly right. Yeah, that's a much better way to put it. But sorry, I really lost train of thought, man. Do you have a question? Because I feel like I'm really rambling here.
No, honestly, I enjoy it. Like, so coming into this, and I kind of touched on this before. I remember when the Tim Kennedy apology came out, and as part of the bro vet industrial complex, God, I can't remember the other guy who kind of started us on this train. Older guy, a little more like dad bod-ish, kind of like in Tim Kennedy's sphere. He did a video a while ago that was like, like if you own a plate carrier, you're LARPing, and you're probably, you know, running around in mommy's basement. And he was friends with Tim Kennedy, I think.
That sounds very familiar. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's like a red-faced dude running around in his treadmill at home, clean shaven. Yeah, I can't remember who, but he's like very much in the same space. Like, it's the same ecosystem.
Okay.
But other than that, I wasn't really aware of Tim Kennedy, and I don't want to say I defended him, but when his apology came out, we were recording an episode, and my co-host was like, yeah, you know, in other news, this idiot finally, you know, put out an apology and kind of acknowledged that, you know, he lied and like, he never had the Purple Heart, he never had so-and-so. You know, he put out a pretty big statement, and not having seen the statement, I said, well, you know, fuck that guy, but at least he apologized. At least he did something, you know, at least he took, and now listening to you kind of tell me all about it. Yeah, fuck that guy. I don't care if he apologized. He's a piece of shit.
Right. So you know, people, the Bronze Star with a V thing is one. So what I'm gonna get into now is he claims that he has a Silver Star. So in a 2009 article on heavy.com, Tim is introduced by Adam Morgan, who is the author of this article. It says, Tim Kennedy is a true hero, a special forces sniper. Kennedy has put his life on the line for our nation, winning the prestigious Silver Star for his valiant service in Iraq. Again, if someone does an article on you, you are going to overlook it generally before the person publishes it. Or if they publish it before you look at it, you have an obligation to reach out to that person and say, I didn't earn a Silver Star, right? Yeah. And that's just one example. So I'll get into the other three because he's just all over the goddamn place. In the article, and this is on USO.org. I don't know if I know you said you're from Canada. I'm not sure if you're familiar with USO.
Little bit, mostly from like South Park, but
yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize USO was on South Park.
USO shows. I think like in an episode there was a USO show, and I was just curious enough that I googled what the hell USO was.
I gotcha. Well, I'm sure I feel like I don't have to get into it because I'm sure a lot of these people know, but it's the United Service Organizations. They do all kinds of things. Like they'll have like some like little lounges in the airport that you can kind of go to. or that's generally like I think what's one after I graduated one of my training courses, like here in North Carolina. I think there was one in Raleigh. But anyways, but there's USOs here and there, and then they'll do shows for guys that are deployed. They do all kinds of things, coming homes, whatever, etc.
Yeah.
But this is it's a very legitimate organization. It's not just like a independent, I go and start my own fucking WordPress journal, This is on USO, and it says very clearly on this article that, quote, a sniper in the 7th Special Forces Group, Staff Sergeant Tim Kennedy, has a handful of deployments under his belt and a silver star to back up his words.
Yeah.
Additionally, FightMagazine.com has the same exact thing. They referred to him, Kennedy won the combative tournament 3 times and a silver star recipient. And then another Hemi.com award says the same thing. So you have multiple articles now saying that Tim Kennedy won the Silver Star.
Yeah.
Not so we've passed from Bronze Star with a V to Silver Star. It's just none of this stuff is true, man. And I feel like I hope your listeners don't think I'm just like beating a dead horse, but I'm trying to kind of break down some of these lies and explain why this is so serious. And for those that don't know, like Tim Kennedy has gone on several podcasts. Jocko Willink, Andy Stumpf, Jack Carr. I can keep going, right? And since all this started happening, Jocko pulled his podcast with Tim. Sean Ryan had one of him up. Sean Ryan, a few months after all this came out, Sean Ryan changed the description, or the caption rather, of the YouTube video, adding a disclaimer saying, hey, we strive for accuracy, but we can't always verify 100% of claims made from our guests. So do your kind of research. And then just recently, like a few weeks ago, they updated that and changed the thumbnail to where it says, being investigated for stolen valor by the U.S. Army. So people are starting to distance themselves from him. Yeah. I believe, I want to say Andy Stumpf removed his podcast with him. Don't quote me on that. Someone may have to check me. I don't know about Jack Carr, but people have begun removing. Also, I wish I could remember the individual I referenced for stolen valor. He'd know, but there's a few articles that have also been taken down. So people are quietly distancing themselves from him. But the overall, so there is an ongoing investigation right now.
Yeah.
Into these
I noticed you post a little bit about that. I've kind of been avoiding looking at your posts too much because we're doing this episode. I've known that's been happening, and as mentioned before, I kind of like you explaining to me. You've got a very sultry voice, and it's very like ASMR to listen to.
I appreciate it. I honestly hate listening to my voice. So
no, you're good at this. Jokes aside, you're good at this. But no, I actually do like having this stuff explained to me like I'm a fucking 6th grader. So I don't actually know what it's about. I do note that I don't know necessarily if this is your campaign or another, are trying to like call in and say like Tim Kennedy should be removed from having basically like being mentioned as a guest of honor or similar to that in several installations. But I don't actually like, again, I very purposely avoided looking into what you were talking about. Right.
So there's a few things going on with that. There is a senator, Representative Ralph Norman, and he is let me just make sure I got his name right, because I don't want to.
No, you're totally okay.
Don't want to be responsible for that. Okay, yes, Representative Ralph Norman, and he put up a bill that is, and this is like so small, right? I mean, senators can put up whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't mean anybody's going to back it or it's going to go anywhere. but he essentially put in for Tim Kennedy and a few other individuals who I'm not going to name for the legal purposes. You can Google this and you'll see their names, but they're affiliated with the Save Our Friends group. And this is related to their actions in Afghanistan during the withdrawal. So he's trying to put them in for the Congressional Gold Medal. So part of that kind of campaign in particular is to try to get him to pull that. And the reason why is because the Congressional Gold Medal is the highest civilian honor for, distinguished, contributions, essentially, or actions.
Yeah.
Is just like wildly unacceptable for someone like Ted Kennedy, who's a known liar, a known grifter, to receive something like that, especially for his actions and what he did in Afghanistan, which we can kind of go back to. And by the way, I'm sorry, like if you got to keep me on course, because I have a habit of like rabbit holing.
No, I like it. That's 90% of this show.
Okay, fair enough. All right,
like,
so
trust me, no one is worse about it than I am.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one because I want people to be able to like strap in and hang on. But I know sometimes I can kind of go all over the place. So we'll branch off from there, right? We got two campaigns. The first one being Representative Ralph Norman, Congressional Gold Medal. This is where we'll branch off. We'll come back. So his actions in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There's right now nobody has quote proved that at the time frame in which he was there for sure, but nobody can kind of like nail down the time frame, and that's obviously because everyone else has bigger issues going on than to keep track of Ted Kennedy. But he went out there, and there's a documentary that they did, and this documentary came out shortly after they got back, which to me indicates that there was already a motive to make this a media project, and it wasn't all out of the goodness of their heart. You can look this documentary up. It's like $2.99 to rent, I think, on Amazon. It's called Send Me. And they talk about some of the things they did, but the point is, Tim showed up, right, under the guise of evacuating at-risk Afghans out. They claim to have saved 12,000 Afghan citizens, whether Afghan veterans or civilians or what have you. They claim, this is their claim, 12,000 people. So I will just like, let's just say this. In terms of the overall evacuation, right? The overall evacuation, there's an estimated, it depends on who you get it from, but from the United States side, there's an estimated somewhere between like 120 to 140,000 people that were evacuated during that time frame. 12,000 to say you evacuate 12,000, that is a massive percentage out of that 120 to 140,000.
Yeah.
You with a 12-man team, mind you, they allegedly did this with a 12-man team. So there's a couple things wrong here. If you evacuated that many people in that short time frame as a 12-man team, you would not be able to sleep.
Yeah.
With how much you are working. And also, here's the problem. They weren't using these people weren't being evacuated by chartered planes from Save Our Friends. I'm not saying there weren't chartered planes that didn't get a few out, but the majority of these 12,000 people, if they got 12,000 people through the gates or onto the airfield, those people were then taken care of by the United States military, right? They were then cared for medically or for food, water, and then put on a United States military plane and taken out, where the United States military then transferred them to wherever they had to fucking go after that. So to claim that you evacuated 12,000 people when all you did, even if you did bring 12,000 people onto the airport, is you brought them through the gates.
Yeah.
Which,
You
hey,
completely overloaded everyone whose job it is to keep this orderly.
absolutely. And like I said before, I mean, I've talked to dozens of people that were there. I know people are friends with some of these people, like personal friends with them for years. And everyone tells me across the branches, this dude just got away. He caused problems. He caused holdups at gates. He got refused, had to go to another one. There's not a fucking service member I heard of or talked to that has ever said anything remotely nice about him being there. And that should tell you something. To me, right? Like if this many people from this many different units and branches, people that don't even interact with one another or know even exist, like some Marine from Fox Company 2-1 probably isn't going to know Specialist whatever Johnson from the 82nd Airborne, but they're both saying the same thing.
Yeah.
On the complete opposite side of the airfield. That should tell you something. And in his in the documentary and in other means, including an article, I will bring the article up right now so I can read it verbatim for you.
Yeah.
He claims, let me just get this for you real quick. He claims, now this is a coffeeordie.com article.
Yeah.
He says, like, I'll just read you the paragraph here. It says three dudes. This is Tim Kennedy saying, like, the three dudes, quote, end quote, greet Kennedy's team with enthusiasm and give them AK-47s, night vision optics, en masse at the airport. From there, the 12 volunteers are essentially given free reign to do whatever they can for the orphans, government workers, and stranded Americans they've come to help evacuate from the imploding country. This is where it gets fucking retarded. Sorry I don't know if, apologies on that if that's inappropriate to say on here, but
yeah,
they immediately find a path that they can use to sneak evacuees past both Taliban and American checkpoints to the airport. Okay. You may not have been in the American military, but you were in the Canadian military. So Let me just ask you, in the Canadian military, whether you're in training or deployed or what have you, is it acceptable for a member of the Canadian military to sneak someone past your entry control point or your gate guard or anything like that?
Okay, so there's like three situations that I can see coming from that. One, you end up in prison. Two, you end up shot. Yeah. Three, you're getting jacked up forever. And it all goes away, but your life is about to get very different and very difficult for a very long time.
Right. That's right. So the bizarre thing about this, and I tried to look, I couldn't find like a specific rule in the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I couldn't find a specific rule, but I am more than confident that, I mean, this is a blatant violation of force protection, right? Just like security force protection, smuggling people who haven't been officially vetted by the U.S. military past American checkpoints. Dog, that's fucking illegal. Like, not only is that illegal, but you as a service member are endangering the lives of every other service member on base because they have no idea who these people are.
Yeah.
So,
but he's such a propaganda pony that there's no, like, I think the military loses more face by acknowledging it than by letting him get away with it.
Honestly, that's a good point. Yeah. And I haven't thought about that they would cause themselves more damage to admit to it than yeah, I know that's a good point. That's a good point.
They allowed it to happen, and I see that. While one, it's terrible. I can understand 100% how it could happen in the craziness of that day. It also was a massive security failure from the outside, and a lot of heads were rolled for it. And I mean, I feel like it's just easier for them to go along with it and say like, yes, this happened, and our hero, this hero, soft guy, brovet propaganda pony that we love and prop up all the time because he gets 16-year-olds to join the military, did a really cool thing, instead of just being like, wow, yeah, we fucked up like basic security on a whole bunch of levels. Which again, like I'm not blaming anyone individually except for Tim Kennedy and probably a couple others like middle managers, but I don't know
Right.
enough about the situation.
Right. No, you're right across the board here. And if any individual in the uniform that's not Tim Kennedy did a fraction of this, you'd be put away for any of the things we talked about. You'd be put away forever. Like, it's just not, you'd at the very least have your rank taken. You'd be NJP'd, have your rank taken, probably dishonorably discharged. For doing something like this, you'd probably way worse, right? Like, I don't know what would happen to a person if they did something like this, because this is just, in my opinion, is so severe.
Yeah.
But this is the craziest thing about Tim, is like the shit he does that you would get in trouble for, he admits and brags about. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like, most of his lies, you don't have to like look hard or dig something up. I mean, he tells you exactly, he lies to your face, and 2 seconds later, he'll prove the lie to you. It's like the most bizarre. So he's constantly incriminating himself, like he did in the 2016, I think it was 2016 post, where he said, he's like, kill women and children in war, which, I mean, are you going to give people context on that? Like, obviously people kill women and children in war unintentionally. So was it like, you know what I mean? Like, who says that without like further slaying half those women and children are dead?
Who says that? I just got here.
Yeah.
They're like, man, this is a Wendy's.
Yeah. Put the fries in the bag, dude. So I feel like I kind of lost where I was going, but back to Kabul, right?
Yeah.
In his documentary, they have a whole section dedicated to what they call the bus incident. And the bus incident is where they say they filled up buses of individuals that they had vetted.
Yeah.
And they brought them to, if I remember correctly, Blackgate, and the military personnel on the ground said, we need to vet these people.
Yeah.
And Tim Kennedy said, no, like, these people are good to go. Like, we vetted them. They're good. He alleges that they held up some sort of documentation improvement, and a colonel, they refer to him as a colonel, they don't say his name, says, I don't know what that is. Like, that could be fake. I don't know these people. I don't know they've been verified. The documents are all that could be fake. You need to turn around. You need to take these people away from my gate. Meanwhile, this is stopping everything that's happening at the gate. So they're getting in the way. There's people not able to get through because this fucking escapade, this caravan of buses, and Tim Kennedy's little adventure is just like getting in the way of everything. So the colonel, they alleged, the colonel turned around. They had to go back out in the city, and all of these people died. They say all these people died. It says like in a podcast episode, they were all like murdered. There's no proof of that, by the way. Like, there were absolutely incidents and proven incidents, video footage of people being killed by the Taliban outside the gates, or not the gates, rather, but outside the perimeter, things like that. So I'm not saying not a single person on that bus wasn't killed, but you're talking hundreds of people. There's no proof of saw to like 250 people being lined up against the wall and shot dead.
Yeah.
They allege that as they're going away, the colonel says out loud, "This is not the Tim Kennedy show." And they, on camera, all these people essentially saying, he, that colonel basically murdered these people by sending them away, right?
Yeah.
But just before that chapter, and in his own documentary, he says, I'm in contact with, let's say 4 guys, right? And I go through and I say, hey, meet us here at this time, outside of this part of the base. And we go through these hidden paths, and I get out there, and those 4 people that I'm supposed to get out are told their family and friends. So there's 40, and I have to look at them and say, hey, bro, I can't help you. So he turns them away. Well, it's like, hey, Tim, like, I thought that if you're turning people away because they weren't vetted, that you're murdering them. So I guess if you're doing this all the time, and you have to do this every single day you're there, turn people away because other people can't keep their mouth shut, I guess you've murdered X amount of people too, right? It's only fair to say if someone turning some people away is murder, then you turning these people away is murder. Yeah. But the thing is, like, it's never on him, right? And they do this whole dramatic fucking thing. He starts talking about how they were crawling through sewage canals and, getting literal shit on them and dirt, mud. They're crawling, they're, dirty. But the thing is, and this goes back to the Purple Heart, they never show you a photo of them dirty at all. They're sparkling clean in every photo, in every video clip. They are sparkling clean. So, and like I said, kind of going back to the Purple Heart thing, if he was crawling through shit, he would have a photo of it. He would absolutely be out there. This is the hell you go through for these people. As there's a fucking
basically lives online too. Like every second of his life is documented.
Absolutely. And then another issue with his time in the evacuation is there are multiple clips, both in the documentary and pictures he's posted online, where he's armed. In one case, he has an AK-47, this slick, an AK-47, and another he's holding what appears to be, it's kind of dark, so it's difficult to tell, what appears to be like the longer, like the M16, the fucking, not an M4, but like the M16 that doesn't have the adjustable stock. And then in another one, he has an M4 with an adjustable stock, with a tricked out kit. I'll try to find the pictures it said too.
So two different times.
Three different guns.
Yeah.
So, number one, where the fuck is he getting these guns from? Number two, what is the legality on a service member? Because he's still in the National Guard at this point. What is the legality on a service member getting forward, some indirectly participating in a military operation out of uniform, being armed as he's working for an NGO? Again, I couldn't find anything like in the UCMJ, but I'm pretty sure it's there. Like, that just does not make any sense. And also, why are you armed?
Yeah.
So, I don't know how far you want me to get in this, but there's too many things wrong with that. And the majority of the time that he talks about Afghanistan, he doesn't talk about the 13 that were killed, right? The 11 Marines, the soldiers of the Sierra. He doesn't reference them at all. He doesn't talk about. I believe I remember seeing one post about that. The rest of the time, he talks about himself. He talks about what they did.
I remember hearing a little bit about that on and I still haven't listened to it, but I want to. The Anti-Hero podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I believe there's a big focus on the people he leaves behind and the people who've died, not necessarily because of his actions, but the people he never talks about.
Exactly. Yeah. And what they talk about a lot is a lot of his stories, he will, the big, incredible, extraordinary things, the one person that's there to corroborate it is usually fucking dead. Someone who's no longer in a living realm with us.
Yeah.
One case in particular, in the Anti-Hero podcast kind of covers it in their most recent one. He talks about an individual by the name of Staff Sergeant Bradley Keyes, And Keyes was his partner during a sniper school. And he claims, like in the book, that Keyes, who was suffering with PTSD and just couldn't hack the school, stood up and was like, that's it. Like, I give up. I can't fucking do this, and walks away. And so Tim's left alone. Well, that turned out not to be true. Bradley Keyes, unfortunately, is no longer with us. Guy, rest his soul. But his documentation, his files show that he did pass that course. So not only does he come up with these exploits where, he's running and gunning, shooting here and there, doing whatever, but he uses dead people to shit on dead people and to make himself be something else. And if that's not like the lowest form of a human being, I don't know what is, right? Like, exploiting the dead, and then while exploiting them, you're disrespecting. That's a whole other level of grotesque behavior.
Yeah. But as you said, like if he is indeed, because these aren't like the things about like a sociopath and a narcissist, those aren't things you seem to be saying lightly. That is like a legitimate medical diagnosis. And it would make sense that, like, God, I feel guilty about things I did in like post high school.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. Like I think like a genuinely empathetic person is capable of that, or at least acknowledging that, we're human. We're all slaves to the human condition.
Right.
If someone's a narcissist, or they are incapable of feeling empathy, or incapable of feeling like basic emotions towards their fellow man, it can be kind of obvious. And I do think there's efficacy to what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I it's just my personal opinion. People can, come up to the, determine their own opinions on this. But I think there is one can make a legitimate diagnosis with him. I would actually pay a therapist to do it. Like if I had the time to bring a therapist on and go through all the stuff with this person, and he can watch interviews, I would pay $1,000 to get her fucking diagnosis, He's a very detached from reality individual who has made, well, I guess I can't say because I haven't seen his financial, tax returns, but I'm going to assume a very large sum of money throughout his time in television and his book and everything else. He has made that living off of lying about a service, on, grifting, exploiting our dead, both positively, negatively, lying to the American people. And, I had a civilian reach out to me when all this was going down, and they said, I got a question for you. And I said, what do you got? And they said, do you think I, as someone who never served in the military, have a right to talk about this and criticize Tim for lying? And I said, you absolutely have a right to criticize him. That gatekeeping mentality is exactly why the Brovet industrial complex is thriving, because a lot of civilians don't want to question military members.
No, not at all.
I love the fucking U.S. military. I love veterans, but we are honestly like one of the most coddled communities in this country. And that's part of like hero worship. It's kind of like nurses during 2020. Everyone's like, thank God you're a nurse. This person may have like touched someone's foot. It doesn't mean that they like are, John Bassalo or something. Like that's the problem. Like, it gets to the point where it's hero worship and nobody's ever questioned. And I told her, I said, not to be like cheesy, but your American service member only has a job because of the American taxpayer.
Yeah.
So if anything, you have just the same amount of right to criticize him. You're paying for his fucking job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you absolutely have a right to know if he's lying about something. Especially if you absolutely have a right to know if he's murdered women and children. I mean, I would want to know where my money's going to. And
sorry, go on.
no, I'm ranting. You go.
No, you're okay. I think, and not to like derail us too much, I think this speaks to, and I've seen this, in a lot of countries. America's no exception. But the kind of institutional hero worship we give towards the military, like especially SOF, like the
Yes.
cool guys who kicked doors and all of that. I feel like there's a big lack of cultural accountability. And again,
Yes.
a lot of people we've had on this show have been cool dudes. A lot of people we've had dudes from Delta, we've had SEALs, we've had Rangers, we've had the whole 9 yards. And well, we've invited them onto the show, so at least I think they're all cool fucking guys. But that's kind of the thing in regards to, it's a career that I don't want to say anyone, but a lot of people can join. And if you fit the requirements, you can come in off the street. And not being a liar or an asshole isn't one of those requirements.
Shut up.
Like, it is at the end of the day a career, and not to be this is the be all end all. It's still a minority of people, but there's certain careers that attract certain personality types. Doctors are a big one. The amount of doctors that have antisocial personality disorder, massive. CEOs as well. And unfortunately, it's like jobs where you drop in from a high altitude, low orbit jump and kill people in the middle of the night. Also, yes, statistically, there's a good amount of people who are a little not neurotypical, not to use the Tumblr words.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, that's kind of the thing, and I agree with you in that you have to treat people like people. Like, it's really cool, if they did a cool guy job, but it doesn't exempt them from being an asshole or a liar. So we have to hold everyone, no matter where they're from, to the same level of accountability.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think to your point, that hero worship is why that accountability hasn't happened for so long.
100%.
Nobody wants to counter him. And I've even had people come into my DMs, other service members, and say, "Hey, what are your qualifications on judging this guy? I see you throwing like a lot of shade at him. Like, what qualifications do you have?" As if I have to be a Green Beret. So now not only do you have to be in the military, but now the only way you can counter him is if you're a Green Beret.
Yeah, you have to be the cooler guy than him.
Right. It's such a stupid mentality to have.
Yeah. Everyone should be able to call out a liar. Like Martha, who begs your groceries at Winco, should be able to call out a liar, regardless of how cool that liar is. There's no imaginary social hierarchy that we have to enforce because, like Veterans Day tells us that anyone who has been there and done stuff is a hidden, protected class of people that we can never question.
No, absolutely. And again, that's why we're having a conversation about Tim. Yeah. And so to tie in and go back to that, second campaign I was talking about, this second campaign is to have Tim Kennedy's tab revoked, and for him to essentially lose his Green Beret and the title of a Special Forces soldier. I again, like, I'm not a Special Forces soldier, never have been, so I can't say that the Green Beret to me means something emotionally the way it does to other people, but I can respect that, having been in the military, and really not just military, but anything you do, you go through something in order to be awarded something, a title, whatever have you. So certification, like, everyone, you cherish that, you prize it. Like, this is something that you went through to earn it. And when people who either, faulted their way into it, or they did it legitimately, but they just bring such shame to it, and they are the contradiction of everything you're supposed to be, and person has lost that right to that title.
Yes,
and so
I agree.
A lot of these people, even though I'm not in that soft community, a lot of these guys that are, it's not just the organization space that's getting, soiled and ruined. It's you're desecrating the legacy of other Green Berets by allowing this person to still be a part of that community.
Yes.
You fuck up at work, you get fired. right?
Yeah.
Like you do something crazy. If I go out there and start spray painting swastikas on, I don't know, whatever, a McDonald's window, and I work at McDonald's, I'm going to get fired. Like, it's just like, that's how it is. They go, we don't want you part of McDonald's anymore. And so that's what I'm getting at here. It's a weird way to word it, but it's kind of at the point where like it has to go because of the severity of this issue.
Yes.
And so after all this time, hard work to a lot of people. And again, shout out to all those other people, because I refer to myself as a new kid on the block when it comes to this quote fight or movement or what have you. But they've, a lot of people put in a lot of time and effort into kind of digging into him and putting him in this position. And that has led the Maryland National Guard to be where they are right now, which is what they claim they're conducting an investigation into essentially the claims he's made and determining if he has either lied or committed war crimes or anything like that. Like there's an active investigation as of whatever day we're on, September 3rd, I think, right? We're on September 3rd.
Yes.
So as of today, there's an active investigation by his parent unit.
Yeah. That is about fucking time, honestly. And I'm curious whether that'll pan out, because part of me worries that, hey, we investigated ourselves of wrongdoing and found nothing. But another part of me thinks that maybe something will come of it. And it's going to set a precedent that I think we're long overdue for. But at the same time, the idea of the influencer is just such a new idea in general. Like that is something that very much blew up over the last decade. And I kind of wonder how it'll shake out for the future. That being said, not every former cool guy and whatnot online, in fact, probably very few of them, have done remotely the amount of lying that Tim Kennedy has done.
No, definitely not. I think people should. Here's the thing that's going to be the difficult factor here, right? And I spoke with someone from multiple organizations, like in the Special Operations Command area, about this. And it's a game, right? Like the last thing they told me, I called probably 3 days ago. The last thing they told me is that, hey, because he's not active duty, the USASOC's not going to do the investigation. The U.S. Army Special Warfare Center is also not going to do the investigation. Maryland National Guard is. And so they're going to determine, did this person do something wrong? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Does it warrant, essentially then it goes to USASOC and they go, okay, he did do something wrong. Does this warrant having his beret taken? Okay. Then goes to, SWCS, and then they take his beret. So there's a line of people that they have to go through in order for anything realistic to happen. And the problem with him is the organization that he, I don't know if he's actually works for him anymore or not, because he was recently removed off the website for their board members. But the Save Our, and I don't know, but the Save Our Friends organization, the one that he used to be active in, at least, they have been donated money from Fox News. And anyone who knows Tim's been on Fox News multiple times throughout the years. And some of the people that have interviewed him, like our current Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Yeah. So he also allegedly participated in the evacuation of a Fox News reporter that was wounded in Ukraine, and all kinds of other things. So he has a clear connection with media, one, and two, very clear political connection with, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, as well as Donald Trump. I mean, he got invited to the, I think it was like a Wounded Warrior Day kind of event they had. Like, he is politically connected.
Yes. Which is weird to say. It's weird to think about.
It is. And so I spoke with an individual from USASOC, and I don't want to say any more than that. And I know it's kind of shitty not being able to prove who someone is, because then it's like, who am I? Like, I'm also just kind of if I can't say who it is and people can't prove it, then it's like, I can just be making stuff up myself, right? But like,
Yeah, no, of course.
This person, I just don't want to go down that path. And this person told me, because I asked them very blunt. I said, look, when I was in the Marine Corps, we had some guys that were lance corporals at the time in my company, and they posted, like, it was just two of them. They shared, I don't even know what was wrong with it, but it was a meme. I think he was like shitting on the command. Also, sorry for my constant swearing. I'm going to try to keep it down a little bit.
That is constant and forever on this show.
Okay.
Do not sweat
it just comes out, and I've been trying to get better at it just in life, because I'm like, man, you gotta tone it down a little bit. But
oh gosh, golly, jeez.
It's like, it's hard to take someone seriously sometimes when they do that. Like, oh, gee willikers,
Yeah, like peanuts. Like you're okay. Don't worry about it. This is there's very few rules in this show you can break.
Yeah, fair enough. So back to use to sock. I was asking this person. I said, hey, I had these like couple lance corporals in my company at the time who shared something that was like a meme that was shitting on command. They had a public profile. They weren't influencers. They didn't have a big following. It was literally just because they had a public profile. They got brought in. Like the next day, someone shared it. Someone found out. They got brought in, and they got ninja punched, NJP'd for. It wasn't loss of rank or anything. It was something really childish, but they got essentially paperwork for posting something that was disrespectful to the command, right? So I told her, I said, this has happened. I was like, if something like that happens over a silly meme with someone that doesn't have any sort of political sway, power, influence, or just a normal run-of-the-mill E3 Lance Corporal, why? I said, it just seems like with Tim having consistently lied through X amount of TV shows, movies, articles, podcasts for so long, surely the U.S. Army knows about it. And if they know about it, then I can't help but to think that somebody in it is complicit in not only allowing it, but maybe even supporting it. And this person told me, they said, you are going down some of the correct paths. And I was very shocked to hear this because of who this person was. It was just very shocking to hear. And I said, could you point me in the direction of the people who are doing this?
Yeah.
And they were like, I can't do that, but just know that like you're on a right path. And that kind of confirmed the thought that I had in my head at the time, is that, and we kind of hinted at it, to be honest, earlier when we were talking about the DoD and a propaganda machine. People in the U.S. Army, in the U.S. military, and I can't give anyone names. This is nothing more than my theory, is that people in the U.S. military have allowed Tim Kennedy to be a media piece.
Yes.
They do not care that he lies. They support him in some of his things by having him go to these events, by having them attend certain meetings, by slowly becoming a political figure. They have enabled this and very likely directly supported it. So, which honestly kind of, I think, confirms what you believe, which is it would be even worse to admit it than to just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah,
because
that's just like politics 101. You get
absolutely.
You get to any level high enough in the military, and it just becomes like a bureaucratic rat race. It's all politics.
100%. So he's been protected for a very long time and empowered for a very long time. And he has made even more connections throughout his career. So where does that leave us, right? Like, what kind of a chance, not to be, black pilled, doomer pilled, But what kind of a chance, like, what are we realistically looking at here when it comes to him losing his tab, right?
Yeah.
I don't know because of how supported he's been and with having a good relationship with the Secretary of Defense. I mean, what does that look like? Like, I personally, I'd be surprised if it even gets to that point. And if it does get to that point, I wouldn't be surprised if Hegseth himself says, nah, it's not happening, pushes it back down, fuck you, he's keeping his break.
Yeah.
I mean, in which case, like, that's something that Tim's going to have to live with if he gets to that point, which, I mean, he's a psycho, so I don't think it's really going to keep him up at night.
Yeah,
but
he's got residuals and whatnot, like, going back forever. And I think no matter what, he will continue to have enough people basically just fillet him on social media and whatnot, just because he's a cool guy that has done cool things to keep his career going on more or less indefinitely.
Right. You know, and I'll hit on this for a second too, with the, you know, he's a cool guy, so it's okay. That's another narrative that we see floating around a lot in regards to him and some other people that have been in trouble, which is, well, you know, this person has done X amount of service and X amount of things, so you guys really need to kind of like lay off.
Yes, and I hate that.
It's such an insane mentality to have.
Yeah.
Because that excuses you essentially doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
And saying whatever you want. And that's not like the Uniform Code of Military Justice and just life in general is you're supposed to all be held to the same standard.
Yeah.
And if you're saying that, hey, someone's a special operator, so it's completely acceptable for them to lie X amount of times and make millions of dollars because they went through this fucking Green Beret pipeline, then, you know, it's just like that doesn't make any sense, right? And I would argue that I think a lot of these people who share that mentality and think that way, if someone like you or I just run of the mill conventional military news lied about, honestly, the dumbest say, if we just lied about, you know, getting a combat action room in for a firefight, like these people would eat us alive.
Yes.
Eat us alive. Fucking like piss down our souls. But because it's Tim Kennedy, he can lie about whatever he wants for however long and tell us all to go fuck ourselves. And it's like, well, you know, he's a cool guy. You know, he wore lit knots at some point, maybe. Yeah. So that kind of mentality is just, it's poisonous, man. It's really poisonous to this community.
I agree. And I hope things get better. I like the fact that some accountability is being done, even if that accountability ends up just being social. You know, like even if the powers that be, even if, you know, the Department of Defense or Pete Hegseth or, you know, the Green Berets or any level of the military isn't willing to make him face consequences, the consequences are social and they're bad. Like it is enough that he has been pressured into acknowledging the lying. It's been enough that he is being dropped from places, and the best thing that we can do is just continue to put that pressure on and spread the information about, hey, this is a bad guy, this is what he did. And I acknowledge again, like a lot of people that exist outside this space, it'll never touch them. You know, the people that glaze public figures like Tim Kennedy and basically every other person that these things kind of happen to, I don't think they'll ever change their mind regardless of what happens. And those people are basically going to keep his career alive. But at the very least, to everyone else, we could make him irrelevant.
Yeah, and, you know, honestly, it's to the point where I don't even want his life to be ruined. Like, if he came out today, and said, you know what? Yes, I lied about XYZ, like a genuine apology and owned up to it, I would fucking forget about this tonight. You know, It's like, whatever, keep running your business, hope you're successful in life, whatever. If you just literally open up to it, I don't even care. Keep the fucking book on the shelf. But like, if you just admitted to it, I think so many people would not care anymore. So many people would just like let it go.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that he's not getting off that ship, man. He's just not going to do it.
Yeah. Consequences.
Yeah. By the way, I apologize if I just went down like I told you earlier, I rabbit hole a lot. So I hope your listeners are able to like strap into that one.
No, you're okay. You're okay. The show's like 90% just ranting most of the time. It's just about the silliest things, like John Harvey Kellogg and cereal, or the obesity epidemic, or fucking whatever. But
well, I mean, since we're on that topic, if you have just a few minutes, I'd like to actually hit something in relation to his time in Afghanistan during his deployment, and I'll make this quick.
No, please take as long as you want.
He talks about this is not necessarily strictly related to Tim, but it is from Tim to an overarching picture. And Tim is in his book, he's describing, this what he called a 3-day long gunfight where, hundreds of Taliban members were after him. I mean, his first claim was that it was 400 Iranian foreign fighters, which isn't a thing, by the way. I went down as far as I could into intelligence reports and accounts during that time, and battle damage assessment. There's nothing on 400 Iranian foreign fighters being in Afghanistan at that time. There's nothing. So it's completely like
entirely
fabricated.
Just like, man,
it also just doesn't make any fucking sense, because anyone that knows like the region and like the ethnic differences in that region, Iran has not gotten along with the Taliban because of like ideological ethnic differences. This is a fact. Like it's just like it would be like a weird ally. The only thing I could find was that there may have been a couple of times where Iranian intelligence or special forces gave like some training to some Taliban fighters, but never a company plus size element of foreign fighters, especially in one engagement. That would have made the news, right? The way like Cop Keating did when that was going down. We actually had hundreds of Taliban fighters descending on Cop Keating, but he's talking about this, and the way Tim Kennedy talks about it. This is just like, I'm saying this because as an American, I'm tired of seeing the United States lose stupid fucking wars. We need to, and this is why like Tim Kennedy is such a bad influence for young people joining, because he fits this mold of, dude, we're just out here like killing bad guys.
Yeah.
No, you're doing more than that, and you need to understand that you're doing more than that. He talks down in his book. He'll talk down on the Taliban. Like he calls them like angry old farmers and like angsty teenagers or some shit.
Yeah,
and it's like I'm sure there are old farmers and angsty teenagers in the Taliban. Taliban was a big organization, but the U.S. and like Bro Vance and all these people who ironically lost the war will go out of their way to demean and belittle the enemy, and that's exactly why we lost the war.
Yes.
Because we did not understand the intricacies and the complexities of the region and the makeup of the region, the different tribes and all these things. And to people like Tim, it's all so simple. You just go, you shoot someone on the head, and you call it a day.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how, and there he writes about how his team leader was a pussy for not dropping a bomb on a school or something like that.
That's fucked up. That is not someone you want representing.
Right. Well, for context, the school or the building was being used. They were taking fire from it. Allegedly is what he's saying. They were taking fire from it. They didn't know anything else about it. Tim wanted to call it a bomb.
Yeah.
Which is fine, like at face value, but then he goes into, oh, he didn't call it because of like political reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
His stance as a grown man, Tim Kennedy thinks like a child. He's intellectually adolescent.
Yes.
No, you don't strike that school because you don't know who's in it. Because when you're the war in Afghanistan, quickly after like mid 2002, became a counterinsurgency operation. And counterinsurgency operations are no different. I mean, there's differences, but it's similar to policing, right? Yeah. Cops can't come into your neighborhood and be taking fire from someone's house and you stick your head out the window going, what the fuck is going on? And they have the right to just like shoot you in the head. It's not how that works, right? Yeah. So to have that kind of mentality there is exactly what leads to unnecessary civilian casualties, which turns the populace against you. This is a very like simple equation. I know people will be like, well, it's war, and you're asking us to essentially like put U.S. troops in more danger in order to prevent these civilian deaths. And it's like, well, number one, yes, but number two, no, because if I had saying it, they just wouldn't be doing it, because it doesn't make sense for the U.S. military to be doing, or any military for that matter, to be doing policing.
Yes.
So if you're going to do it, then yes, unfortunately, you have to be the one to put yourself in more danger the way a cop does. But if I ain't saying it, you just wouldn't fucking be doing it. So it's like, that's kind of how I view it. And, I can give a bunch of examples, but that's how he talks, and he talks about how, at some point, he says if any man that like, looked outside or stepped out his door, we shot him. It was, total dominance. And it's like the cognitive dissonance there, right? I can't believe we lost this war. It's the politicians that failed us, as he's describing just like mass murdering any male figure that steps out their door or window, trying to figure out like.
Also, right after saying like it's old men and teenagers. It's just old men and teenagers. Right. We need to kill them because they're really dangerous.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like
I want to ignore the like kind of geopolitical and social like thoughts and nuances and everything, and just focus on what he said. That's fucked up. That is a very fucked up worldview to in one breath infantilize them, and then in the second breath talk about, we just, you're not a man unless you kill all of them. Like
exactly. Yeah. Everyone in the Taliban is a child or an 8-year-old man, right? And but then any man, civilian or otherwise, that steps out the door is going to eat a bullet. Like it's just
fighting
like,
age male. No, you're dead.
Like what kind of world do you live in? And number two, just like his time during the H-5 evacuation, you're admitting to a war crime, bro.
Yeah.
You can't just shoot someone for stepping out the door because they're a military-age male.
Yeah.
So with things like that, how is the U.S. Army not going, why are you saying you just blew all these people away? What's going on with that?
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, he's protected. I just, again, like I hate to be like doomer pilled about it and black pilled, but he's just he's a conniving motherfucker, man. And he's very protected, and I don't know, man. Like it's just very frustrating. I know some of this has probably come off almost as a rant, and
no, you're okay.
It's just people like him are not good influences for people that want to join the military. Not at all. He's a Call of Duty boomer kind of guy, and people are going to join the military thinking this is how it is or how it should be, and it's not. And people who act like him have directly, if they acted the way he admitted, they have directly negatively impacted our standing in the world. Ironically, like that's kind of the funny thing about it. He's helped with recruiting, but he's fucked us internationally.
Yeah.
If he's actually done these things, right? And I know it's a larger picture, and I'm also kind of like casting blame on him, but I think you can kind of understand him say here.
Yes. No, 100%.
I feel like there's a lot more I can cover, but I feel like this is probably a good amount of information for your followers. Like I would just urge everyone again, follow the Anti-Hero podcast.
Yes,
All of
100%.
BFT, David Hook said, Regular Apparel Company, Sticky Green Beret, Soul and Valor of Truth. These are some that come immediately to my mind. Like, please give them a follow because they're the heavy hitters here. A lot of them are people who've been, doing the digging and stuff like that. And I've been doing a lot of digging myself, but I feel like those people really deserve a shout out. And I think, like, look, whether you're a civilian or not, like, we need your help in terms of like coming out and supporting this effort. And don't be afraid to say your opinion. Whether you're a vet or you're a civilian, you don't need to have some sort of qualification to call someone a liar. You just don't.
I agree. And you also don't have to have a qualification to hear someone, no matter what they've done, brag about, killing women and children or whatever. And you're allowed to say, wow, that's fucked up.
Like, it's to gatekeep criticism on that is fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. That is a dog shit take. You are allowed your opinion. That's the great part about being an American. If you're from the UK, fuck you, I guess. You're not allowed to have anything.
What wasn't some? I feel like I just saw something today. Like, wasn't some dude arrested for posting something about oh man, like it's slipping
I think
me,
like
but
trends people in bathrooms or something.
Yeah, that
he
sounds
posted
about right.
something on Twitter about it and immediately got arrested at the airport as he flew back. But this happens like every day. You can say basically any opinion and you'll just get thrown in jail for something. The UK is like a nightmare hell world. If you live there and you're listening to this, first stop because you're going to get arrested. Second, leave.
That's crazy, man. I would be very interested to talk to some people there. If anybody who's listening to this is British, please hit me up. I'd be more than interested in listening to your endeavors in the great United Kingdom.
We have a co-host that comes on regularly on this show who's Irish and lives in Ireland. He's in Florida right now, but if I called him British, he'd fucking kill me.
Rightfully so, by the way.
But Ireland is just like a nightmare hellscape as well for its own reasons.
Oh, that's
I'll bring him back on to talk about it in the future.
Yeah, please let me know what you do because I'd love to hear about it. I've heard Dublin has gone downhill. I guess is a pleasant way to put that.
They're burning down quote refugee centers unquote now. Last I checked, which that's a whole bag of worms I'm not going to get into right now.
That would be another 2 or 3 hours, I'm sure.
Yeah, just go down another fucking hole. Well, anyways, it's been we're coming up on over an hour and a half, which is about the amount of time I promised you in the beginning this would take. So I really appreciate you coming on, Daryl. Seriously, where can we find you for anyone who wants to know a little more?
Yeah, so I'm only on Instagram. You can follow me on at Projekt Atlas. The C is swapped for K. So
Project
with Atlas. K. That's right. You guys can find me there.
Yeah.
And seriously, like anyone that has a question, I'm more than open to answer if I have the answer. And you know what? Honestly, like open floor for debate. If someone wants to just have a discussion, dialogue about it. If you have a counter, like I'm open for that. I'm not on some fucking crusade. I just believe that he's not been acting as a good person, doesn't deserve title yet. So if you disagree, by all means, like this is the internet, this is the land of the free, home of the brave. You can say what you want. So I'm just putting that out there. They're more than willing to get into discussion with somebody if they want to.
Yeah. For me, this if you're a long time listener to this show, we try not to shit talk more or less anyone. Like I like a positive space. As gay as that's going to sound, I like focusing on the good aspects of this community as opposed to the bad ones. We really try not to jump into the drama unless we really have to, past the occasional joke. But I feel like if we don't hold members of our own or even adjacent communities accountable, who will? Um, which is part of the reason I've been trying to avoid making the usual jokes this episode. We're just kind of going with it because I think this is important. But yeah, thank you again for coming on. I received a message from Matthew, who was on the former Cola Warrior episode, saying that 1, he loves and misses everyone, but 2, go and listen to the exact episode that you mentioned, the podcast about Tim Kennedy, the Anti-Hero podcast. It's a 3-parter. There's a lot of information. I'm going to listen to it after this. I've been putting it off because I wanted to pick your brain first and kind of like 1-2 whammy the all of this content at the same time. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on, and maybe we'll do another one when this entire situation shakes out.
No, I mean, listen, I'm very grateful and honored that you had me on. I'm just a guy like everyone else, so I try to know as much as I can, but maybe I'm wrong on some things. But I really appreciate the fact that you reached out and you wanted to have me on and talk about this. So,
of course, anytime, my guy. And if again, there's updates with this, we'd love to have you on again. So.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I've actually followed you guys for years, so it's cool when you reached out. I was like, I know Seabird Art. That's funny. I know you guys.
Man, that's awesome. I had no idea. Well, I really appreciate that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
Thanks, man. I'm actually going to put up a guide soon. I promise. That page has been inactive for like several months. I wrote a guide on how to do an ACE report, and I've just been sitting on it.
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing, man. People can take a hiatus and come back and even better than before. So that's the thing. I'll take your time getting back in the game, and I know people are waiting for the good content. I know you'll produce it.
Thanks, homie. I appreciate you. Anyways, we'll catch you all on the flip side. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.